Hello everybody, my name is Anthem. Welcome back to the Let's Play series of Hard for Kaiserreich. Today we're going to be playing as South Africa down here, surprisingly, in the southern part of Africa. So, the Union of South Africa, formed in 1910 as a merger of various British possessions in South Africa, the Cape Colony, Natal, Transvaal, and the Orange Free State. After the Second Boer War, the Union of South Africa remains as the last remnants of British presence in Africa. But the Dominion is wavering. The white Afrikaner population yearns back to the independence of the Boer republics of old, while on the other side of the political spectrum, syndicalism, already influential in the region since the Commune of France or the Union of Britain were materialized, is creeping into the minds of impoverished underclass of every racial group, who are chafing under the effects of the global downturn. The Union's politics revolves around the two-party system, the South African Party of General Jan Smuts and the National Party of General J.B.M. Hertzog. The smaller party, Labour Party, currently divided between two opposing factions, also holds presence in the South African Parliament. Between 1924 and 1929, they ruled with the National Party in a coalition government. But after their failure to tame the Great Depression, the South African Party secured a majority again. First with the help of the breakaway nationalists, and then after 1933, after being accredited for relieving the effects of the global depression on its own. South Africa's population is perhaps the most diverse in all of Africa, but racism and segregation is institutionalized and omnipresent. The white European population forms the top of South Africa's racial hierarchy. They hold socio-economic power in the nation and enforce a degree of segregation throughout South Africa. This group is divided between the Afrikaners, the descendants of the Dutch colonialists, who arrived in the Cape during the Dutch rule, who held political power owing to being the majority of the almost exclusively white electorate, and the British South Africans, the English-speaking descendants of colonialists who arrived in the 19th century, who hold most of the economic power, although this is shifting somewhat to the Afrikaner advantage in recent years. Of the non-white population, a so-called colored community enjoys the most respect. This group is made up of people of mixed heritage, and most of them speak Afrikaans, the same language as the white Afrikaners. They make up the majority of the population in the Western Cape province, and make up a large part of the non-white property-based voters in the same provinces, as well as in southern Rhodesia. Then there is the Asiatic group, the South Africans of Asian descent. The majority of this group are either indentured workers from British India or their descendants, who live primarily in Natal and to a smaller extent in Transvaal. In the Cape, one can find the Cape Malays, who were brought here from the maritime Southeast Asia by the Dutch in the 17th and 18th centuries. The least respected are the original native black Africans, most of whom belong to one of several Bantu peoples, the Sosha, the Zulu, the Sotho, or other several smaller tribal groups. Despite making up the majority of the South African population by far, they have very little political power. Even in the provinces where non-whites can theoretically vote, where very few of them fulfill the needed property requirements. When the entrenchment of the white electorate, hopes for reform are dim. The South African Act of 1909, passed by Westminster, serves as the Union's constitution. The Union of South Africa is unitary states rather than a federation, with each colony's parliaments abolished and replaced with provincial councils. The national parliament consists of two parts, the Volksraad and the Senate. The Volksraad members are elected mostly by the country's white minority under first past the post, although the franchise varies depending on the province. In the Cape and Southern Rhodesia, a qualified franchise based on property and education requirements is in place, while the vote is white only everywhere else. The Senate is appointed by the Electoral College, consisting of members of each of the 5 provincial councils and members of the Volksraad. The government follows the Westminster model and is appointed by the Governor-General of South Africa, presently the Earl of Clarendon. South Africa has been administrating Botswana, Botswana, and Swaziland, a protectorate in the place of Britain ever since the British Revolution in the 1920s. While Southern Rhodesia has been admitted as a province of the Union in 1922. So I don't know if I actually stated this at the beginning of this episode, but we are going to be going down the national populist path here, which we haven't done before. And I'm pretty sure that is, the most extreme of the Boer population. But that will not really come into effect until 1938 during the elections here. We can actually elect the nationalists. Because right now, of course, the social conservatives are in charge. They are the South African Party, the pro-British side. And I'm assuming that we will need to do not the Civil War. I mean, I guess it's kind of a Civil War, but we're going to have to declare independence away from the Entente. So we are currently in, but we're not going to stick with them. Now, I don't know. I'm guessing nationalists can probably join the Reichspakt. They usually do, based on what I've seen. But I guess that might be slightly different than national populists, but we'll see kind of how that goes. For our defensive line up north just for now. And for you, found the SABC or military expansion. I guess we'll found the SPDC. Actually, that gives us radio for free. Actually, it's quite nice. And for the political power. And stability and war support. Honestly, is not bad at all. So that's actually gives us radio for free. So we'll take you for the research, basic machine tools, and construction 1. All of our basics. We do only have 13 factories. 3, 1, and 9. Honestly, it's not that bad. All things considered. So we'll take it. Don't worry about you. Don't worry about you. Exploit resources. Don't worry about those right now. We'll take our Army and Navy experience. What are we missing? We're missing fighter production. I mean, I'll throw them in here, but I'm not too sure how much we'll really be able to actually utilize them. And what are we missing? We're missing steel for the convoys. Or for the submarines, I should say. Actually, you know, we should be building convoys instead of these submarines. At least for right now. But missing the steel is not a big concern of mine there. Okay, let's get started here. I am excited to kind of get back into Kaiserreich. Has been a little while. I think the last campaign we did was it when we played Arabia? No, it's when we played Hunan. Like that just happened. Like a week or 2 ago. I can't believe I've already forgotten. But yeah, it's been a while. I mean, we've definitely been playing less Kaiserreich recently than we have in the past, which is not too surprising. Because again, like, we've played a lot of Kaiserreich, you know, in our time. Okay, so the King George V is dead. Okay, so I think this is slightly different, so we'll read this one. The King of Great Britain, Ireland, and the Emperor of India, George V, has passed away in exile in Canada. While in Canada, preparations are made for funerals and the ascension of his eldest son, Edward, to the thrones of Dominion, South Africa included, and a theoretical throne of Great Britain. Life goes on in South Africa, with most of the Afrikaner population passively or actively pursuing a republic, and a native, colored, and Asiatic populations largely indifferent to a foreign monarch seating thousands of miles away. Mourning over the late king remains mostly confined to the English-speaking white population, and the more or less obligatory procedures of the Dominion government, like declaring a state of mourning and hanging a national flag at half-mast on public property. Yeah, the thing with South Africa is, like, nobody's really happy right now. They got racial segregation. Political power gain goes up by 20%. Horrible stability loss, negative 55% recruit population, and efficiency growth, negative 20, which is not great. Wavering dominion, bad stability, horrible war support, and we cannot join wars. And there's another negative 5 political power gain, which is fine. The not being able to join wars is not a big deal at all. The Port Elizabeth North by-election. The South African Party representatives in the Volksraad for Port Elizabeth North, Charles F. Kaiser, has passed away last year. Given that the constituency cannot be left unrepresented, a by-election is being organized. The seat is evidently desired because there are 4 prospective candidates. The SAP evidently wants to defend its constituency, but Madeleine Labour and Nationals see opportunity to snatch a seat. The leader of the fringe, Ulstdurcht Verband-inspired White Workers' Party, Louis Weidark, an anti-Semitic and staunchly pro-German South African, has also made a bid for the seat. Well, we will go for the National Populist here, because again, we are going to want to go National Populist. And the South African Trade and Labor Council. Established in 1930, the South African Trade and Labor Council, the SATLC, is the largest unified trade union body in the whole country. It was originally a merger between 2 other historical trade union federations. The first was the South African Trade Union Council, which formed in the wake of the 1924 Industrial Consolidation Act and represented white workers, becoming known for its radical leadership under Labour Party members William Henry Bill Andrews and James Jimmy Briggs, who are today part of the Madeleine faction of the party. The second was the far older Cape Federation of Labour Unions, originally founded in 1913, to represent both white and colored workers along the coast. It was led by trade union veteran Robert Bob Stewart. The SATLC, formed from these 2 entities, and is more or less dominated by the old Trade Union Council, with a heavy focus on white workers and the moderate politics of the Labour Party. Ideologically, there are a strong reformist belief among the union rank and file, but the inner bureaucracy of the SATLC is known to being under the sway of the more radical, popular trade union leaders who manage the organization efforts. A few of these leaders in the SATLC's affiliated trade unions are also known to harbor racist views. Whilst the average white South African worker and union member typically leans towards moderate or extreme social attitudes on race. Key figures in the SATLC's leadership, such as Andrews, have expressed hope for amending South Africa's racial struggles through a new radical policy of parallel unionism, hoping to one day unify black and colored workers under their own separate but equal system of trade unions. In no small part thanks to Andrews, an informal alliance exists between the SATLC and the more radical left-wing groups in South Africa, most notably the ICU and the ISL. Despite the schism within both the Labour Party and the broader left over the merits of recognizing the syndicalist ICU, it currently seems that the SATLC remains on the side of a unified proletariat of all colors, even though the disgruntlement among the white workers is becoming more and more apparent as the years pass. Okay, so that is going to be more support for the syndicalists and the Social Democrats. It means Romanov has been appointed interim president in Russia, so it seems like they are going to be going for... I think that does Romanov always go for the Empire? I don't know if he always crowns himself. I'm trying to remember if that's true or not. The International Socialist League. Founded in 1915, the International Socialist League is the primary syndicalist group in South Africa and is established in the neighboring territories of German and Portuguese colonial empires. It has established branches across all of South Africa and has formed the first black African trade union in the country, the Industrialist Workers of Africa, in September of 1917. It also formed a number of other unions amongst people of color. While the leaders of the organization itself are mainly drawn from the radical wing of the white working class, the Industrial Workers of Africa, founded with their help, would merge into the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, which has a substantial black African, colored, and Indian membership. While the South African Labour Party has remained a part of the ISL due to its more progressive stance on race relations, more radical members push for reconciliation. In the meanwhile, the ISL and its affiliates in the ICU campaigned for political reform in South Africa and organized resistance to the worst excesses of German administration against the native population of Middle Africa. Okay, so we're going to get even more penalties here for our political power, which is a bit of a shame because I do want, a decent amount here. We can get our way up to early mobilization. Okay, well, we can't right now because people are not super supportive of an idea of a war. Also, I can't tell is my microphone a little quiet? I don't know if that'll be any better, but let us continue. Black Monday has hit South Africa. A week ago, the German stock market collapsed, plunging the world into a depression. Since the advent of the Great Depression of 1925, the Pakistan government at power at the time, a coalition of the National Party and the Labour Party, a smaller party of chiefly English-speaking white miners, elected to deepen the trade ties with a still prosperous Germany to limit the effects of the crisis, with limited success. The Smuts government that came to power in 1929 kept these arrangements in place, and as such, the woes of Black Monday did not skip South Africa. The crisis has been a terrible effect upon the South African economy. Unemployment has risen markedly, as the companies that depend upon the German export market have gone out of business or laid off white workers in favor of cheaper native labor. Okay, so we're going to take a negative 10% stability, 20% consumer goods, negative 50% on construction speed, product efficiency cap, and factory output. Honestly, I don't think it's so bad. There are significantly worse Black Mondays out there. Let's just put it that way. So we are... I'm still feeling pretty good. Okay, there's the SABC. We cannot take any of you because we already have Black Monday. Negative 50% for consumer goods. An extra research law would be interesting. Repeal the Consolidation Act. Establish work programs. Bail the farmers out. Attract Canadian investment. Okay, so what do we want to do here? What do we want to do? I think we want to respond to Black Monday first. So we'll get that going. I have noticed that there is these, unemployment level has dropped below 16%. I don't know where that is actually shown. Effects of Black Monday. South African Broadcasting Corporation. So I'm honestly not too sure. Like, do you give us, like, a mini game? Okay, so here's the decision to reverse the economic downturn caused by Black Monday. And presumably that is going to give us the unemployment rate number. But because we haven't actually done this, the game thinks we're at 0. That's my, that's what I think's happening. The industrialist lobby. In the first decade of the Dominion, South Africa's political system had been made up of the Afrikaner-led South African Party and a smaller British-led Unionist Party. The party of the English-speaking mining magnates, the likes of C.S. Rhodes and leader Star Jameson. When the National Party rose and Republican sentiments along with it, in combination with the Union's decline, they eventually agreed to the merger of the South African Party. This SAP wing has persisted during the last 15 years. Standing in their way of political and economic dominance, however, is the Industrial Consolidation Act, a piece of legislation that was passed by Herzog's coalition government with the Labour Party in 1924, and which was later upheld by Smuts' SAP government. The act was intended to promote peace throughout the Union, healing the scars of the Rand Revolt, and serving as a foundation for the future of South Africa's welfare state. It legalized trade unions and granted them government recognition, on the condition that their activities be moderate and a period of consolidation between employee and employer would be imposed in the event of labor struggles, with mediation from the Ministry of Labor before strikes could legally be launched by the union. This bargaining process also excluded black workers from unions, with the hope of elevating the positions of white laborers and sowing racial discord among the left. Though some informal arrangements existed where white workers have argued on behalf of their black colleagues, the act ensures that blacks have hitherto never been recognized as actual employees. This turned out to be a double-edged sword, as while it suppressed the revolutionary left, it also granted white workers immense influence during the British Revolution and subsequent Great Depression, forcing corporations to raise wages and guarantee jobs for whites at a time when many of the industrial lobby were desperate to switch to cheaper black labor and keep wages low to avoid inflation. The lobby has openly decried that the vast concessions granted by the Industrial Consolidation Act will make effective recovery from Black Monday crisis next to impossible, with many of its members begging us to repeal the act in order to keep inflation down, maintain foreign investments, and prevent the exodus of capital from Anglo-run industries. Union sympathizers with our parliament group in the Volksraad will expect us to repeal the Industrial Consolidation Act. Okay, so the Unionists want us to repeal. So my question, here's my question. Will any of which one of these will actually bolster the nationalist? I'm not too sure. Not the fact of Black Monday. The government does not have a majority in the Volksraad for the motion. Farmer bailout or repeal the act. I think what I want to do is I think I want to piss off the nationalist. So we might want to repeal opportunities for the unemployed. Because if we repeal it... Now, if I remember correctly, if you do repeal, that is a way to get the syndicalists in power, because that's what we had to do when we played Socialist South Africa. But, can that bolster... Can that bolster the nationalists as well? I'm honestly not 100%. Let us... Yeah, let's have negative 30% consumer goods for now. I think that seems reasonable. You know, given the situation, we are spending a ton of money on consumer goods. Does not gave into the worker to strike's demand. Again, I don't think do we want to? I don't think we do. Okay, end of the conference. There's Black Monday. So has this popped up now? Okay, unemployment is at 30%. We have 4 million South African pounds. 0% inflation. We have no debt. Raise taxes. We'll get 2 million. So let's spend money on you for 2 million pounds. Let's impose some tariffs. Abandon the gold standard. It appears there's one thing that Jan Smuts and James Barry Munich Herzog agree on, is that removing the South African pound from the gold standard. This move would make South African exports more available to the world market. This would allow for the creation of more jobs within the urban areas of the South Africa and assist with the current unemployment crisis. Though not all have found this move popular. Herzog's major voting base, the rural Boers, being forced to hire lower-paid black workers and putting their more desired... wait, okay, I'm going to read that again. Herzog's major voting base, the rural Boers, being forced to hire lower-paid black workers and putting their more desired, more paid workers out of work. Okay, so, but yeah, okay. I understand. I don't know what we want to do. Start public works program. Let's repeal the act. And I'm just going to hope that's the right thing to do. We are going to go to early mobilization, and maybe I actually should have gone to political advisor. And it's fine. We'll go up to early mobilization. That should still be good for us. And how bad is construction right now? I mean, 25% honestly is pretty reasonable. World 2 million. Cut military spending. We can't even do this anyway, so 3% inflation, 26% unemployment. We should be okay. We should be okay. But I will say it, at least right now, this is going to be a good time for us to end this episode. If you enjoyed, run thumbs up. Not enjoyed, throw some down. You want to see more, subscribe, and goodbye.